All right, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I'm used to doing these webinars in the morning, but we tried a different time today just so we can make sure it works on everyone's schedules when we talk about this important topic of paid family medical leave and the employer's role. I am Carolyn from Midwest Manufacturers Association, and I am happy to introduce our presenter today is Ron Dietl with Employee Benefits Plus, and he is going to spend some time with you here talking about this important topic of paid family medical leave and what that means to you as employers. So I will turn it over to you now, Ron.
Thank you, Carolyn, and I appreciate this opportunity. This opportunity came to me from Angle Metallurgical is one of my clients, and they were looking at the paid family medical leave and options as far as the employer's role, as well as having private insurance or an insurance instead of the state tax that's going to be starting January 1st. And they felt that after learning about how it works, some options they may have, that a lot of people in the MMA circle did not know enough about this or at all. So they asked me to step in, and I'll be going through a short PowerPoint today. For those of you that were on last time, I actually kind of shortened it down a little more condensed, just to kind of highlight some of the more important factors. And number one, going over with the employer's role, number one, how does this work? So if you haven't been through this before, just a review of that, and then also your private plan options. And I think that's the biggest thing that Les and Kathy wanted me to hit on from Engel, is to let everybody know what those options are, how that works, and also what are your responsibilities prior to January 1st. So with that, I'm just going to share my PowerPoint. And what I have done, I've kind of cut. I used so I took this from the Minnesota Deed website, and this is originally was sent out, as you can see, was on July 28th. And there's been a few tweaks since then, but that's where I took that. This is where I started from, and then I've added a few things that I've used for my clients as well, and just talking about learning about the paid leave. So when would my employees need paid leave? Who's covered under law? And then also the benefits and job protections that are like under the law. So this can be very similar to the family medical leave that is out there right now, but this is now paid. And where did this all start? So this actually started in the law was enacted in May of 2023. It was voted in. They had more updates in 2024, in May of 2024. And then also the end of this session is what kind of delayed the private plans and being able for employers to apply for private insurance in place of the state insurance, because of the extension of the state and Senate session this year within Minnesota. Luckily, they finished up in June, so they were able to move forward. The private plans were able to move forward and start taking applications and assisting employers with um, plans, private plan options if they wished. So, how does the plan work? It provides job protections and payments from state to individuals who need time off for care. And when I say state, this is if employers decide to use the Minnesota's paid leave law versus a private plan. Obviously, if somebody chooses a private plan, then that insurance company would handle the payments for the employees. And it's funded by premiums with contributions from the employees and or the employers, well, from the employers, possibly from the employees, and then also the benefits are sent then directly to the employees on leave. So what is covered under leave? And so there's two types. So those employers that are on the call today that have like short-term disability, you're going to be familiar with the first part, which is the medical leave. So the employee has up to 12 weeks to care for themselves for their own serious medical condition, injury, or an illness. The other part is what's going to be new. It's the family leave. So this allows you up to 12 weeks as well for bonding time. So whether that be birth, adoption, or foster care that just started, active duty, caring for a family member with a serious health condition, or also safety because of a abuse situation in individual or individual's family member. Now, with this, you'll notice that the purple line on the bottom, there's 12 weeks for up to 12 weeks for medical leave, up to 12 weeks for family, with a maximum of 20 weeks in one calendar year combined for both. So if somebody is out for a period of time, if they're out longer than 12 weeks on medical leave, they would time out. And same thing with family leave. They would get only 12 weeks for that. And I apologize, I jumped ahead just a little bit. If anybody has any questions, if you are able to wait until the end of that certainly is fine. If you want to jump in, I'm a very social person, so if you want to jump in, if you have a question as I'm going through this, you're sure welcome to as well. And please, by all means, you can also use the chat bar, and I will definitely have time for questions at the end of this as well. Now, who is covered under this is for any employees that work more than 50% of their time in Minnesota. So you notice there's different scenarios with that. I think most people that will be on this call will fit under the A where the employees work 50% or more in Minnesota. Um, and also for the businesses, for example, that may be out of state, but the employees work remotely in Minnesota. Now, how is the paid family medical leave paid? This has been a question that I get quite often. So I kind of made this chart, and what I'm going to concentrate on is the bottom three tiers. So how the how the employees are paid is based off their annual salary. So, for example, in the yellow, those are employees that will, I'm sorry, I got to step back. The state average weekly wage that the paid family medical leave is based off of is $1,423 a week. So those employees making 50% or under the state average weekly wage will receive 90% of their income, as you can see here, while they're on leave. Okay. And then here is this last column is the weekly wage you see, so that you can see it all the way up to the top. Then so in the first column, I have the annual salary listed. And then this is going to be their weekly earned income. This is what they would normally receive if they were working their normal job. And then this is the amount they would receive, the middle column, through the paid family medical leave benefit. Okay. Now, so everybody that, all employees that file for paid family medical leave will receive this 90% if they're making more than $36,000 a year. So that 36 is kind of a round number. It's just below that. If you go up to the green area, that is for employees. As you can see, their annual salary will be between $40,000 to $70,000. And then their earned weekly wage, this is their earned weekly wage. This would be the amount they'd receive from um, from the paid family medical leave after they receive the 90%. So they receive this, and then the difference between the two. So let's say they're making $60,000 a year. Subtract that from the 36,000 they've already received. So $24,000 they receive 66% of their wages. And that is for in the green category is for those making 50% to 100% of the state average weekly wage. Okay, and as you can see, that'll max out at $452.76 a week, additional on top of the $617.40 a week that would be the maximum they could receive in the yellow category. The orange category is going to be those that are obviously making more than the state average weekly wage of 100% or more. Now, the reason it's in orange is with this paid family medical leave, the maximum an employee can receive is $1,423 a week. So these employees in the orange, if somebody's making $99,000 a year, they would get the first $36,000, they get 90% of that money. They get 66% of the difference in the green category. And then once they hit 4,000 up to 99,000, they then get the difference of this category subtracted from the other two categories, and they get 55% of that of their wage. So you'll notice as you go up and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, you notice the percentage of what's covered of their weekly wage replaced is going to be higher for the larger wage earners. So how does the plan work? And job protection is it's very similar to the family medical leave where if an employee has to leave prior to the paid family medical leave starting, they get to take time off to bond or care without having to choose between their family and their job. So that means when they return, they're going to have a same pay, status, benefits, and length of service and seniority as prior to their leave. And it begins 90 days from the date of hire. But the employees may have additional job protections under other state programs like Minnesota pregnancy and parental leave. And one thing I just want to touch on, this has come up a few times with my clients I've met with. The question is, how do benefits, the way you're currently paying them, what happens during paid family medical leave? And of course, the biggest thing is going to be health insurance. And so what I did, I emailed the state of Minnesota, and this is what I did respond. I did get a response back, this middle paragraph, which says whatever benefits you were providing prior to the leave is what you will need to maintain through their leave until they return. So, for example, if you're paying 100% of their health insurance, that needs to stay the same all the way through all the way through the leave. Let's say you're paying 50% of the health insurance. You need to maintain that, and then you can discuss with the employee how they want to make up the difference and how those funds will be deducted. But that does need to be maintained. So some of you may already be looking at this, or you have looked at it, and you're reviewing your employee handbooks, which is a great idea. Just as a refresher, what do we have in there? How are we going to handle this? Because there may be some questions that come up along the lines. So what happens is if you either choose a private plan or through the state plan, you do need to set up your company within the state of Minnesota using your unemployment employer account. So if you don't have one, you can register for that. But either way, you're going to need to at least let the state know what your plans are, what your choice is. And the reason I'm going to talk about that is getting your workplace set up. So we're going to talk about decide how the split premiums can happen. So let's say you plan to go through the state. The state rate is 0.88% of your salaries that you report that you report each quarter. So starting in April 2026 is when your first premiums will be deducted for the paid family medical leave. Employers, as you can see on the right-hand side, starting January 1, 2026, employers may deduct up to 50% of the premiums from the employees' paychecks. Now, the 0.88, those are for employers that have 31 or more employees. There is a fund that smaller employers, 30 and under, can apply for through the state if they decide to go with the state through the state paid family medical leave option. That gives them a reduction of 25% off of the 0.88 tax. So that would lower their tax to 0.66 if they decide to go through the state. So what is that meant to do? So that's funding to help out with hire temporary workers increase existing workers' pay, and also train workers to cover an employee on leave. That's the that's why they're allowing that reduction for those smaller employers. And then here it talks about with the paid family and medical leave with the employees, um, your options as far as how to go through that. Uh, this is with the state website. They believe it's the least expensive and easiest option. And then also they're talking about how the process works when it comes to claims, and it's very straightforward, user-friendly process submitted with your request. So if somebody did have a request with the state, they would go online through their own portal, which is the paid family medical leave will be a branch of the um, unemployment insurance for the state, and so most of it is already set up. They just need to finalize a few things for those claims if you're going to be going through the state. Now, understanding equivalent plans for paid leave. So this is where you can, as I've been alluding to the last few minutes, you either have the Minnesota paid leave or you have an equivalent plan. And so what happens regardless where you go and what size of business you are, employers cannot charge employees more than they would pay under the state plan. So even if the employers get a reduction in that 0.66, employees could pay 0.44 regardless of what rate that they have or what's received through either the state plan or the private plan. And what I want to talk about, one state equivalent or a state equivalent plan, and this is one that I just like to share is with Shelter Point, just because of as long as they've been around. This is what I've been working with a lot of my clients on. And a few things about Shelter Point and having a private plan versus through the state is just their experience they have. They file 6,000 leave claims a month. The challenge is on the webinar that I had attended, half of them are incomplete or incorrect and need to be changed. So having a private plan with that and having an agent assist with that will only help speed up that process for those people that need to file the claim. Now, you will notice one thing I'd like to share that they talk about the tiers. Um, what happens when you have a private plan? They're going to ask for a few quick things, a quick census to send in to Shelter Point, and they're going to evaluate and they'll turn around and send you a quote of what rate you're going to receive. And so the first, you notice the first tier, 1 to 24 lives, and there's two bullet points that they're going to use. And if the employer is not in either one of those two bullet points, they're going to guarantee a rate of 0.59%. So again, that's about a 0.0% reduction in what the lowest rate that the state has. And so, and with that, if you do fit in both of these two categories, you do not need to send in a census. You can simply send in an application. And this says it here, it has where you can send it to Shelter Point or your Shelter Point rep, and we can help with that. If it's more than 25 employees, where I've had some of my clients where it does come back at a 0.59 rate, even though that's larger than 25 lives. But just letting you know, we need 4 small pieces of information in order for that to happen. But Shelter Point is in the Minnesota will be the 13th state to have some type of a paid family medical leave option. We are fortunate in this state because we are allowed to have private plans. There's 4 other states that are looking at this down the road or are looking at it. I forget the exact terminology, but 2 of them are saying there's no private plans allowed. We're going to go with the state tax only. So I feel fortunate here that employers do have that option. And Shelter Point is in the other 12 states that do have that, that do allow private insurance out there. So they have the experience to assist with that. And been very knowledgeable for me with the questions that I've had. And this is just a flyer that I work with my clients, just letting them know how quick information about Shelter Point. And what happens is when you do receive your rating, the other thing you're going to get back once you're approved is um, once you get your rating, then we have to send in an application. The application is a little more detailed about your business. And when you send that in, then you're going to receive a three pieces of information. You're going to get your policy number and the entire policy, which is about 30 pages long. You don't need all that. The important part is that policy number, which is on the first page. Then you're going to have the Minnesota PFML and the instructions of how to apply online. And you're going to apply online just like you would if you were going to go through the state coverage. However, you're going to be looking for the exemption tab and you're going to be looking to, and they're going to ask then the state will be asking for some information like your policy number and what you plan on doing um, for coverage. And those steps are listed on here on step one and step two. And then once you verify all your information, and including uploading your documents, the next thing you're going to be doing is you have to pay an application fee for the private insurance. And that's going to be, I'm just going to enlarge it here for a second, just so everyone can see it better, depending on the size of employees. So if you're under 50, if you're fewer than 50 employees, it's a $250 application fee. If you're between the 50 to 499, it's $500. And if it's 500 or more employees, it's $1,000. So they're only going to accept credit or debit cards. And that will be done, my understanding is annually. All of the laws and the way the process works for paid family medical leave, the only thing that was not voted into law was having this application fee happen every year. So that doesn't mean they won't do it this year. I've heard some strong comments about that may happen and probably will happen just um, for that fee. So you will send that in for this year, and then the private plans as well as the state plans are going to renew just like your health insurance and your other work comp you have, other business insurance. We will renew every year, and more than likely there'll also be an application fee every year for you to renew in as well. The one advantage is with the private insurance, they're going to be basing it off of your company and your usage. So if there's any rate increasing through the state, the positive thing is you may be able to retain your lower rates going forward when other rates may be increasing. And this is what they're going to talk about as an employer. You have decisions to make as far as coordination with other payments, other leaves, call-up policies. We kind of talked about this. I mentioned this with your um, sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second. But the other, uh, I apologize. I'll have to come back to that. What I was thinking of. But this is going to be with your handbook. That's what I was trying to think of. So there's going to be some things you may have to update and just be familiar with because there's now additional benefits that weren't available last year, for example, when the employees were hired. The requirement for all employers is this notice that I will have, and then you will receive. I'm sorry, I skipped a step with the shelter point paid family medical leave. When you receive your policy number, you're also going to receive the instructions that I shared with you, those 2 pages, and you're also going to receive this notification as well that you can post for your employees, discussing with how paid family medical leave works. And the employees have to be informed, and that form has to be posted by December 1st. And there are those of you that may have any language spoken other than English by 5 or more employees or independent contractors, they also have to have that also needs to be spelled out in their language as well. So this just speaks a little bit about, well, when employees leave, how long do they have to tell us? Well, as the notice says, Now, if something happens and it's not planned, obviously, if there's a car accident, for example, or somebody gets recently has a health condition like a heart attack, that type of thing, you can't predict if that's going to happen. However, if they have maybe there's a knee surgery or shoulder surgery or some type of planned surgery, the goal is by the employees, they should provide at least 30 days of notice to their employees. And then the other item that employers need to decide on, are they going to give leave intermittently, which means they can they can do it in blocks of time, or can it be sporadic as far as spread out through a calendar month instead of in a block month. Now, coordination of benefits is another important thing to discuss, and this is where education really comes in. And I encourage everyone to utilize um, your employee benefit agents to assist with this, because the paid family medical leave is, and the reason I really got into this 2 years ago, ever since it's been going, I've really paid attention to it because I have several clients that have short-term disability with me and other disability products. How do those work? And that's why it's very important to have those conversations, because when people thinking that, as we went back to the chart of what percentages are covered, they're not all going to be, the paid family medical leave isn't going to cover everything. There's still going to be some holes and gaps, and there's options where those can be filled in, whether it be through the business or uh, through business policies or through other supplemental plans. And we talked again with the coordination of job protections with the medical leave, but we don't need to hit over that. But one thing I do want to make everyone aware that's on this call is that this is something that's very important that we're going to need to know about. And when it comes to leave, which I'm circling right now, bonding time. So the paid family medical leave will start January 1 for all the leaves we're talking about, with the exception of bonding time. The bonding time actually has a look back period of 12 months. So meaning starting January 1st, 2026, if you go back 12 months, you are able to you take your up to 12 weeks for bonding time if you have it available. So for example, if somebody, and what they show here in March, let's say their bonding time started, baby was born March 1st, they would have, starting in January, they would be able to take bonding time from the beginning of January to the end of February. So that would get them 8 weeks. Now, if they had that baby in June, the child arrives at the beginning of June, they have the full 12 weeks they can use, because from January 1 to June 1, that's 6 months. So they have a look back period of 12 months in order to take that. So it's only for bonding time that's allowed. And then here it talks a little bit again about coordination of benefits and payments with employees and employers. And there is if you have not gone on here and checked out the state website, I encourage you to do that. It's the Minnesota Deed website. And it gives you, and there are information there's updates you can receive. And it doesn't happen a lot, but it's coming up in the next few months, since we have a lot of time we need to discuss, and we need to, there's deadlines that are coming up. For example, the employer one, and I didn't highlight that yet, and I should have, I apologize, going back to the beginning, is that if for a private plan option, you have to opt out by December 1st, 30 days prior to the 30 days prior to the effective date of when the plan starts. So the goal is, what I've been working with my clients on is, if we can get something sooner than later, and I want to stress this, just because you may be hearing this for the first time, or you're familiar with it and maybe you haven't done anything about this yet, I still have clients I'm working with. We still have time. So just letting you know, you do have time and to get into that. But if what the state is encouraging, and also Shelter Point, one of my more popular private plans, is encouraging employers to get their applications into the state by November 1st, because it's going to take time. Because what's happening now, when this first started at the end of July, when more private plans became available and we knew how they worked, so it's been almost 2 months now that I've been working with this, is that it's taking longer because there's more employers applying for that private leave that they maybe weren't familiar with. So I encourage you, if you are looking at this, please jump on that sooner than later. And if there's any questions that I can assist with, I know I didn't check the chat yet. I'll stop sharing here in a moment. But if anybody has anything specifically they'd like to ask about or put that in the chat, please let me know. Otherwise, this is my contact information, and I'd certainly be willing to have at least a conversation with you and assist you with your best options going forward. Let's see if we have, looks like we have a couple chats. Joyce X asked a good question. Why are private plans more expensive for companies that have more females? And would that not be considered discrimination? Thought the same thing. The reason that they're looking at that, why does it run more for employees with more females, is because they're feeling that, especially when it comes to maternity leave as well as paternity leave, but for maternity leave, the usage is just going to be higher. When it comes to insurance and they're looking at underwriting, that may change. But as for right now, that's one reason why they're looking at that for the underwriting. And and also when it comes to what they found in other states as well, when it comes to leave and care for family members, it's usually the female of the relationship that is more the caregiver than the male. Does armed forces leave include National Guard duty? That is a great question. I do not know, but I need to find that out. I will write that down and find that out. Let's see. I'm getting asked, so let me share my screen again on slide 2. To give an example. And I guess I'm sorry, I don't understand the question on slide 2. Oh, yes. Okay. So there's a question on, okay, wage replacement example. I'm assuming we're talking like supplemental.
Yeah, the slide where you had the yellow, orange, and the green. Would you mind doing?
Oh, yes. Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So
Yes.
this one?
Could you go through another example of this one?
Yeah, it's a fun one, isn't it? So I'll try to, so explaining it, uh, trying to figure out the best way to do that with it. So in the yellow, for example, okay, let's say somebody makes $90,000 a year. Let's do that. Okay. Somebody makes $90,000 a year. The first 36,000, because we're going to cover everybody. That's 50% of the state average weekly wage and below. We're going to cover that at 90%. So we're going to subtract that from the 90,000, and that'll give us 55,000. Okay. Then we're going to subtract the next 36,000 because that's the difference between the 50 and 100% of the state average weekly wage. So what did I say it was going to give us? 36,000. So that'll give us, so of this difference in here though, we're going to get 66%. Okay. Whatever this is subtracted from the 36,000 is 66%. And then whatever is after the difference from the 75,000 to the 90,000 is $15,000. And then you're going to receive 55% of that. So you can receive from this category, and this category. Is that clear, Wendy?
Yeah, so you're getting a percentage of each of those.
Yes. So you go up, it's a building benefit. So you start here, everybody gets this. Everybody who makes 36,000 or more will at least get this. And if they make more than 75,000, they'll get this, the difference, which is 66%. And then this would be 55% of that difference when they max out at $1,423 a week, which is at $100,000 of annual salary.
Okay.
They won't receive more than 1,423.
And that's the amount that you're getting from the state. That's not anything to do with what you're still getting from your employer.
Correct. If you have any supplemental or any other type employee benefits, correct. That's just what you're getting through the state.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Ron, I don't know if you saw the question from Tom that says, does the employer get to choose intermittent paid leave versus continuous? Are you
Good
able to
question.
go back to that slide?
Yes, I did see that. I was just going to get to that one next. Yep, absolutely. So let's see if I'm able to. I might have passed it. There it is. So this is, as you'll see down here, it says the employers can choose either an increment of time between 15 minutes and a day. And they decide if employees can take more than 480 hours of intermittent leave in a single benefit year.
Right, another question we have from Lynn, does an employer have any obligation to continue to accrue PTO during the leave of absence?
That is a question I have not gotten yet. I will find out. Carolyn, is there a good way I can respond to these, that you're able to send these out after this? These are some good questions.
I can, yeah, that's a super good question too. I will, can print out this chat and, send that to you. I believe.
Yes, and I will get answers. These are good.
And
I'm
then-
still learning a ton on this as well, but good information.
Another question that came up is is the benefit taxable?
Good question. Yes, I apologize. I missed that part. So the benefit is taxable. It's a 10% tax federal and a 5% tax state.
All right. I think we've covered everybody's questions. Any more out there? I think we're good. So I will be sending this recording out to everyone who registered for this webinar, and I will have Ron's information in there. So you can reach out to him directly with more questions that you may have. Otherwise, unless something else pops up, I think we are about done.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Ron. We will be in touch. All righty.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Bye.